Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thanks for watching. I'm Sarah, and this is Amy. And today's Friday at 11. And as always, every week, here we are live sharing just notes of wisdom. I like to call this. It's like enlightening conversations together. I think it's what I call them. And what I like to do is I like to have women from our group kind of just come live with us and share anything that might be helpful for other women. And so in the past, we've had a few different topics. Last week, we had Robin with nutrition and the emotion code and the human design and things like that. And Amy doesn't necessarily have a specific modality or practice that she follows, but I don't think that you need one in order to be able to share your wisdom and your love. And so today she gets to share with us, well, she's humble enough to share with us her story of just resilience and survival. I would say I met Amy a few months ago, and when we first started to talk and she started to tell me the story, I was really impressed because there's a love, there's a light that comes from her. And I found it so interesting that you have been through so much and yet you keep hanging on to that faith, to that love, to that unconditional patience and compassion and everything. And I think that's inspiring because a lot of times when we suffer, there could be a risk of becoming bitter or resentful or frustrated. And one of the things that I find so inspiring about you is that you've actually taken the suffering and done the opposite with it. And so I wanted to just, that's my intro for you. Let's go ahead and you can kind of start wherever you want, and then I'll kind of just ask questions as we go along.
Thank you, Sarah. So, like she said, my big thing that I like to stress in my life is obviously resilience. And what Sarah's talking about, she gave you a little bit of bio on Facebook and stuff. I grew up in Utah, in Holladay. I'm the youngest of 5 kids. I went to Utah State to do a degree in communicative disorders. Actually came home one summer to put my application in actually for the police academy, but ended up marrying my high school crush. We stayed here in Utah, obviously. A couple of years later, I had a son, and then shortly after that, a daughter. Around, I want to say he's like 3 years old, he was diagnosed with what's called PDD-NOS-HF, which is pervasive developmental delay, high functioning, not otherwise specified, high functioning. Short story, it's on the autism spectrum. That kind of rocked our world. I was a new mom. I had a young baby and, a son with autism. And, we just put our heads down and said, okay, we're going to, take this one day at a time.
How old is he now?
He is 23.
Can you tell us how he's doing?
Yes, he is actually doing very, very well. He is a published author. He wrote his own book, and it was published. It was a goal that he had since he was 10 years old. He could not read or write when he started this book. And my husband and I took it as a learning tool and said, okay, if you learn to read and write, we will do whatever we can to make sure that your book is published, thinking it would just give him something to work forward to. But he did not forget those words or those promises, and he worked so hard for 10 years. It took him 10 years. And he did actually write his book. He illustrated it, and about 2 years ago, it was actually published in both hardback and paperback. And he tells an awesome story of, it's just kind of a common theme in our family, as you'll come to see when you're talking to me, of never giving up. And how the world and everybody around him, educators, some extended family, friends, people he met, always told him that he couldn't do it. Oh, you'll never write a book. That's too hard. Yeah. And he did not listen to them. He continued working. He worked super hard. He had a lot of downfalls, times where he wanted to give up. But his big message to everybody is never give up. And it's very cool. It's a very cool, he has a very cool message, a very cool story, and now, of course, an incredible book. So that's been amazing. Went on just after my middle child was about 18 months old. Started having some weird, I had a weird pain in my chest. And I thought, I'd just go get it checked out. I couldn't really sit up straight. Went in and found out I had a cyst on my pancreas. Although that wasn't the greatest news, and I was never told it was a huge detriment. I did have to go in and have emergency surgery. I had 2 babies at home where they supposedly drained the cyst, and I was in the hospital for, I think it was 3 weeks, as I healed and recovered. Other than that, I was done. I didn't say I had to go for any follow-ups. I said we got it taken care of. All was well. I'm fine. Probably a couple of years after that, I found out I was pregnant with twins. And we were really excited to have those come into our family. And about 16 weeks into the pregnancy, I found out that one of them had passed. And of course, we were devastated. And then shortly after, at about 28 weeks, the second one I delivered, and she also passed, which was huge detriment. And between there, my husband also lost his job. So we had to deal with some unemployment issues and trying to survive with these little kiddos. We didn't quite feel our family was complete. And so again, a couple of years later, we found out I was pregnant with our third child, another girl. And she made her debut at 28 weeks into our family. Spent 3 months in the ICU and getting her better. Shortly after, 3 more years later, I started having some female issues and thought, okay, you know what? I'm done having kids. I can't handle another, premature birth. It was very hard on us. And so we decided, well, let's get it fixed. So I went in to have a CT scan to see, how they were going to handle the issues, and came home. The hospital was literally only 10 minutes away. When I was walking in the door, it was my doctor stating that I needed to come and see him immediately. So I was like, well, okay, the kids are still the babysitters. So I went and jumped back in the car and went down there immediately by myself. And I sat down in his office, and he proceeded to tell me that I had pancreatic cancer and that I had 3 months to live. Now, mind you, I was alone when he told me this news. I had no one with me. I had to drive home by myself. I had not only 2 babies at home, but I had a son with autism. I didn't think it was fair. The next couple of weeks are a little bit of a blur. I do remember my husband and I sitting at our house kind of crying because we didn't know what to do. I got a phone call. I don't know how he got my name, but it was a surgeon. And he said, look, Amy, I've seen your scans from your pancreatic cyst. This was 9 years after the first incident. And he says, I think we have a fighting chance. Can you get into my office? Can you come tonight? And so we met with him, and he showed us how what he thought. And he said, let's do surgery tomorrow. We don't have time to lose. Because if you know anything about it, the pancreas obviously is a centralized organ, and it's attached to so many different things around it. If that cancer spreads to your lymph nodes, there's no turning back. They can't do anything besides make you comfortable. And so here I am screwing around trying to, take care of my son that was going to be, autism. I mean, he has a very specific schedule. And if you get off that schedule, life gets pretty difficult. So we are a very scheduled family. And of course, because we are that way, my other 2 girls are used to that as well. So I had to put something together very quickly, decide, who was going to take care of my kids, because we knew this was going to be a long haul. And I went in the next morning, and unfortunately, not everybody has the best bedside manner in hospitals. Not that everybody does, but right before they took me, they asked me if I had a will and if I wanted to say goodbye to my children for the last time. I was like, what? I mean, I knew I was going in, but I never allowed myself to get to that point. And that was the last thing that was said to me before they wheeled me off. And I remember laying in the chair, and I didn't have wear contacts, and I had to take those out. I remember laying on the gurney in a white hallway, and I was waiting at the operating room. Nobody was around me. And up until that point, I hadn't really allowed myself to cry because I didn't want my husband to see how upset I was. But I remember laying there and thinking, no, I'm not going down without a fight. I am not going to let this take me over. I am coming back. I will raise my children. I will see my daughters get married. I am not going down without a fight. And that's the last thing I remember before, waking up. And I remember waking up thinking, I'm here. I'm here. This isn't heaven. I'm here. I can hear the beeping. I'm here. I made it. And just crying tears of gratitude. And at that point, I remember laying there. Now, I had tubes all over. I had a tube down my throat. They were breathing, basically breathing for me. And I remember thinking in my brain very clearly that I got a second chance. And I knew my road going forward was going to be extremely difficult, But at that point, my whole entire world changed. And my outlook on life changed. And what I mean by that is I decided right then and there that I was only going to take in the important things in life. I got a second chance. Little things that weren't going to matter anymore. I used to organize my kids' drawers, like their socks, color code them, and it would get me so frustrated when they wouldn't put their clothes back in the way they was. And I thought, you know what? Nope, that's not going to happen anymore. It's what I call simplify. The small stuff doesn't matter anymore. I am alive. It was like an awakening of a new appreciation on life. I'm alive. If they break a dish, it's replaceable. It's not worth getting mad over or having that feeling of contention anymore. If they don't get all 5 food groups in their dinner, it's okay. We're sitting down at a meal together. We're laughing. We're sharing thoughts. We're sharing feelings. My whole world just completely changed.
How long ago was this, just to give him perspective?
This was 10 years. This will be 10 years in February. 10 years. Knock on wood. I was knocking on wood when I say that. Because technically I've been told the magical number for cancer is 5. So after my 5 years, they say, if you can make it 5 years after a procedure like this, you got it. And of course, I never put all my eggs in the basket and say, yeah, I got this. I don't have to do anything. I still do follow-up scans to make sure that we're still on the right track. But to even have 10 years is amazing. But I will tell you, this hasn't been without, my life changed. Yes, it changed for the better, but it's also been very difficult. I'm faced every day with health challenges. I don't have a spleen, so I get sick quite easily if around people and for long periods of time. An infection maybe in your finger or someplace could be taken care of within a matter of a couple days. I take weeks to heal. Every morning I wake up in pain. It's like I have rheumatoid arthritis through my whole entire body. I don't make the natural lubricants that kind of make our joints move. So it's like I'm like a creaky skeleton. I am right now, knock on wood, not insulin dependent, believe it or not. I've figured out a way to manage my insulin by my diet. Although I do have insulin available to me if I need it. Like everybody else, I like a good birthday cake and I like some pizza every once in a while. But I generally try and manage everything on my own. And there are days, I'm 45 and I feel like I'm living in an 80-year-old body sometimes. And my brain is awesome, but my body can't keep up. And there are days that I can't, I'm in pain. I don't want to do this anymore. And you just keep on going. It's like our family motto is never give up. Never give up. I spent a lot of time soul searching, and accepting who, like, I had to come to a point where I had to accept, I was grateful for who I am, but had to accept that this is my new being, and be grateful that I have this second chance, that I could still be here to enjoy the changing of the leaves, putting up our Christmas tree, seeing, snuggling with my kids in bed, seeing them in their prom dresses, at a wedding. And I was like, okay, it might not be the perfect world that I had envisioned, but I'm still here, and I'm going to make the most of every single day. And I had to make a decision, Sarah. I had to make a decision of whether I was going to be angry because this happened to me, and that I don't get to do some of the things that I, really wanted to do. I was a dancer and a gymnast. I don't, any high impact on my body is it hurts. And so, but I had to make that conscious decision to make the best of what I have and to just enjoy it. And I did start doing yoga, meditation, and I'll be honest with you, I'm not perfect. I do have bad days where I cry and I think I can't go do this anymore. And then I remember stories, I talk to other individuals. I love talking to other individuals that have had challenges, and I kind of bring them into my circle, if you will, and especially my son being one of them. And I think if he can write a book and put his whole heart and energy, being an autistic person, and put his whole energy into believing in himself and keeping on going when, everybody was telling him, no, you can't do this. You can do this. You can. It is hard, but you still can. You can. And you have, a lot of people think, I don't have anybody to talk to. It's me and I feel so alone. But you're not. I mean, even with this group right here, you have a whole plethora of people around you that support you and build you up in ways that you can't even imagine. One of the things that I do is I have a gratitude journal, because I fall back. I have to be reminded constantly that life is good. I'm not perfect. And I write in my gratitude journal anytime I have a saying or even a thought that comes into my brain that I think, oh gosh, that inspired me, that pulled me to 2:00, right? And I write it in this journal, and I do carry that journal in my purse. And if I'm having a really bad day, or if I'm feeling really down or, depressed, I pull out that journal and I'll read through it. And some of the best sayings are like, oh yeah, I'll pull me through. One of the things that I love the most is my son. I was having a really bad day one day, and I was in a lot of pain, and I was crying. And he asked me what was wrong. And I just said, buddy, I just don't feel very good. I just want to throw in the towel. And he put it's on a little yellow sticky note, and it has his little sword insignia, because my son is very much into swords and shields, and still at 23. And on it he says, Mom, always remember, never give up. And I carry that everywhere, because there are days that we all want to just throw in the towel and just give up. But you remember, you hear tons of stories. I have friends that are going through cancer, that are in chemo, and there's always someone there that has an issue or a problem, and you can relate to them and know that there's many success stories of people that have lost their legs and they're still moving forward, and so I try and remember, for my story, there's always somebody else that has it worse, and if they can do it, I can do it. And in this, I've been able to reach out to other people through sometimes of my posts, when I kind of share my successes, my clean scans, that people have reached out to me and told me their stories, and we kind of draw from the inner strength of others. Sometimes it's not always, when people approach me and They're going through chemo, and it's not a matter of me trying to fix them or say, do this, do that. It's just sometimes they just want someone to listen and to be there for them and to be heard, to know that somebody else knows what I'm going through. And sometimes it's as simple as just listening and rendering a hug or a smile, or saying words of encouragement like, you know what, you are amazing. You've got this. You can do this. And I am here whenever you possibly, if you need to, even to just call me at 2 a.m. and just say, I'm hurting, and just cry, I will listen. And I've been there. I've done that to my friends. And that's what pulls, has been able to pull us through. And, I feel like, we all have challenges in this world, and they're not going to stop coming. Nobody ever said, you get 3 challenges and you're done. And if they did, I got in the wrong line because mine just keep on coming. One of my greatest heroes is my own daughter. She was in a very serious horse accident a year ago today. She was thrown from a horse and was scalped and fractured all the facial bones in her face, broke her nose, and her passion is horses. And when she was laying in the dirt in this arena, she said, "You got to promise me, Mom, that you're still going to let me ride horses." And her journey has been an amazing one. She still has a long way to go, but she got back up on that horse and she kept moving. And I think that all of this, as I've kind of watched my whole 25 years and my family, my biggest thing that I keep on coming back to is never give up. Like, there is so much love, and my kids are amazing. My friends are amazing. People I don't even know, because there's always somebody there, some energies, some outlet that you can draw from, and to know that I am important and I deserve to be happy, but I am in charge of my happiness, nobody else. I am. And I get to make the decision of to be sad, angry, frustrated, or I can choose happiness, joy, love, and I can draw from other people's strengths. And that's what I've chosen to do. And that's really what has pulled me through all of my hardships. And again, going back on some of the things I've learned to simplify. I don't sweat the small stuff anymore. I really don't. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. The little things in life don't matter. I don't have to have organization. My house sometimes is dusty, and it is for a full week. And my laundry, last week, I think I did 15 loads in one day because I let it pile up. But I was out helping, doing stuff with, my family in the yard, and gratitude. Be grateful. Be grateful for the small things, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't think, nobody has to come and knock you up on the head, and say, send me baskets and flowers. That's not what I mean about being grateful. I'm grateful for the small things. I'm grateful that I have another day to see the leaves change. I'm grateful that I don't have to be on insulin, that I have fresh food. Just finding things to be grateful for every day and serve other people. That is my favorite. When I'm feeling like the world is coming down on me, I choose to go help somebody else, to be a support for somebody else. And in doing so, it has a web effect because it makes me feel good. It makes them feel good. And if they feel good, then maybe they're going to go do something. And pretty soon you take one thing that was horrible and it comes to be beautiful and it expands, right? And I love that. And so, and just choosing happiness. Like, we are so many things, especially in our world today, that could bring us down. But we get to choose how that affects us. And maybe that's turning off your social media. Maybe that's getting out. And I got to a point where we have so much darkness in the news. I don't watch TV. I haven't watched TV in probably 15 years. I don't watch it at all. I don't. I choose to listen to, books, read books that will amplify happiness. I choose happiness. That's my thing. Social media, as I would turn it on, I was like, oh my gosh, this is like I realized I was happy. And as I'm going through things, all of a sudden I'm feeling down and depressed and sad. And I'm thinking, gosh, I need to change that. And so I started filling my feeds with happy things, how to make crafts. I mean, anything that would bring positive energy and happiness to my life. And makes so much more of a difference when you just surround yourself with being, positive, and knowing that it's okay to slip, to have a day where you don't feel okay. You don't have to be perfect and always be like, oh, happy, happy, happy. But if you realize that, and if you give yourself permission to have those days, however, only give yourself permission for a certain amount of time. Like, there's days where I'm upset, I'm depressed, right? I'm human. But I'll say, okay, for the next 30 minutes, I'm going to put all my worries and thoughts down on this piece of paper in my book, and then I'm going to shut it, and I'm going to be done. And I'm going to move on, and we're going to move to happy things. Because it gives me permission to feel, not bottle, but it also moves me on to not focusing only on the negative stuff. There's plenty of negative stuff out there. I just choose to focus on the light, the positive. And I believe because I did that and didn't focus or on the negative and, oh, woe is me, I can't do this like I did, and why did this happen to me, and why have I been through so many hardships, and because I didn't do that, I healed. Does that make sense? I gave myself another 10 years, and I plan on giving myself another 50. I won't let it take me.
What you just said right there is, I think, the diamond of wisdom in everything that you've just shared, which is you have healed. And that's what we're all on earth to do, right? To heal, to awaken, to connect with the energy of light and love, move away from fear. And a lot of the times, these challenging experiences that come our way, even though they might seem negative while they're happening, on the other side of that tunnel is this, right? Which is true healing. Like, this is what healing really looks like and feels like. It's like you've been through hell and back, and you somehow managed to hang on to that light.
Right.
And that's the biggest gift that you could ever receive. That's the biggest gift that you could ever give. That's everything. And, yes, your physical body might still suffer, because once things have manifested in the physical body, they are what they are, and you deal with them at the physical level. But that inner spiritual healing, that ability to stay connected to light and love, to not grow bitter, to not grow resentful, to take responsibility, the words that you say of like, I choose happiness. Guys, you could either choose it, or you can wait until something happens, and then you still have the choice of choosing it or not. But I can't help but think how many people might not choose happiness just because they're comfortable. Like, it's almost backwards. Like, a lot of the times, by the time people start working with me, it's like they've tried everything else and nothing has worked, right? So they're really, really suffering. And I'm like, it's all right, because I've been there, done that. I know what it's like to fight like hell to get out of hell, and that it's really up to you. And so actually, some of my best students are the ones that are really, really suffering, because they actually have the motivation to do what you just said. It's like, I've suffered enough. I cannot live like this anymore. Something's got to give. Something's got to change. And that is what gives them the fuel, the drive, the motivation to get to where you are right now, which is like, okay. And then they still need to figure out how to get there, right? Because it's easier to say it from here. But I'm sure while you were going through it, that grasping of trying to get to, and you don't even know what it's like to actually allow yourself to be happy. Right. Because you don't have the point of reference. Right. So you don't want to be suffering. But then a lot of the times, one of the things that I find, very inspiring about you is you've chosen happiness, And like you say, it's a constant effort to stay connected to that choice. Because anybody can choose happiness for a few days, right? And then sooner or later, they'll manifest something else consciously or unconsciously that sends them back to a suffering place.
Right.
And one of the things that happens when you get here is it's not that there isn't pain anymore, is that you no longer suffer about it. You're still going to feel the pain. You're still going to have to. And I love it that you encourage everyone to just do not pretend everything's okay, because it's nowhere near okay, and that's okay.
Yes. That's true.
Right?
Yeah.
But if you stay connected to that witnessing consciousness, then you can feel the pain, you can process the pain, you can let it flow through you, but you're no longer suffering in this victim, helpless mentality that it's happening to you. It's like it's happening through you maybe, but it's not happening to you. You have a choice as of what you choose to do with it. Thank you so much. You have no idea. This is one of the most, with respect to all my other speakers, this is one of the most inspiring. Like, you can feel the love, you can feel the light, you can feel her strength, you can feel her sincerity. And your sincerity, I'm talking to them, I'm talking to you. It's, it's just indescribable. And unless you're at this place, it might not seem possible. Sometimes when you're where you are, it just literally feels impossible, right? So that, and I would say probably the one thing that has gotten me to where I am is that I never give up. And you're right, it's like sometimes I have to look at myself and I'm like, I don't know, maybe I should. I don't know how to give up. Sometimes I wish I did.
Right. I mean, and it's you too. I keep on thinking, I'm not the only one that matters. Like, and I had to pull myself out of that. Like, if something if I give up, then I impact my son. I impact my 2 daughters. I impact my husband. My best friend. It's not just all about me. And so I don't have any other choice besides not give up. You move forward. Yeah. And then you figure out a way of how to do that. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense.
It's not an option. It's just not.
And that's where you need to be. So if you don't give yourself an option, and in yoga we call that tapas. It's like this fire, this burning desire to reach that light, to reach that place. And you have to want it bad enough, because it ain't gonna be easy. Like, to go through the pain, to go through the feelings, to take responsibility, to do all of that, it's not pleasant, it's not comfortable, okay? But it's the only way to this place of like sincere contentment. The other thing that I notice and I observe when I talk to you is a deep surrender. When you called it acceptance, and yes, acceptance is one level, but when I see it, I'm like, it's more than just acceptance, and it's like a complete surrender to the divine will, that for whatever reason. And I remember hearing a story once of this guy who, I think he had lost both legs, and he got to the place, I think he was an athlete or something, and he lost both legs, and because he was so like crippled and he couldn't do the things that he did anymore, he got eventually to this place of surrender. And then 10 years later, somebody asked them, if you could go back 10 years ago, would you choose your legs and the egotistic, self-driven, whatever that you were at the time, and all the so-called success that you had at the time, or would you choose to be where I am? It's like, I'll give my legs 10 times over, because where I am right now is absolutely priceless. Like, and if that's what I had to go through to get here, it seems like a small price to pay.
That's absolutely right. People have asked me, would you, in the same lines of the same question, if you could go back and, do it. And I think, what? it was yucky, right? It was poopy. It was terrible. It was the most painful 18 months of my entire life. I mean, I was on a feeding tube. I had no water. Picture this: no food, no water, nothing. 18 months. Only a feeding tube down my nose or in my neck. But I think, you know what? You're right. You're exactly right, Sarah. I have learned so much good has come out of this one. These I should say one, because all these bad things. My kids, absolutely. I don't have normal kids. Like, my kids don't fight. When you see teenagers that go out at each other, they don't fight. In fact, my 23-year-old calls his sisters his princesses. They are very close. Their connection is very close. Us as a family unit is close. I've learned so much more about myself. None of this would have happened. I would still be concerned about them color coding their socks, literally, right? And I wouldn't have taken time to see and enjoy the beauty around me. And if that's what it took for me to get where in the headspace that I am today, I'm okay with that. Like, it was sucky, but oh my gosh, I'm so much stronger. I'm like, come on, bring it on. Like, cause my favorite shirt is, I'm not Superwoman, but I survived cancer, so close enough, right? And so you're absolutely right. You can, but again, it's a choice, right? That just doesn't come naturally. You don't just have a bad experience and be like, it's a choice that you make, right? And you choose to be happy.
And that is true surrender. So someone just posted a question. It said, Don says, surrender feels to me like giving up. And that is one of the most common questions, because surrender, it's called Svara Pranidhana in our yogic philosophy. It's one of the yamas and niyamas that we study on Saturdays. And one of the things that usually comes up when we talk about surrender is this feeling of like, surrender feels to me like giving up. And I'm like, no. Surrender is being so determined to stay connected to that light and love that you're going to do whatever it takes with complete surrender. You're going to surrender to doing the right thing. You're going to surrender to choose happiness. You're going to surrender to living your life with so much, like, it's not even an option to give up. Mm-hmm. So surrender and giving up are actually the opposite.
Well, I think giving up is not moving forward. It's just accepting and doing nothing. It's like, okay, it would be like me saying, okay, I have cancer, I hurt, I'm going to stay in bed all day long, I'm not going to go to work, I'm not going to go out in the community, I'm not going to open my blinds. That to me is giving up.
That's not
surrender. Is saying, okay, you know what? This is who I am, this is my new circumstance, and man, I'm going to blow it out of the water. I'm going to choose happiness. I'm not going to let it stop me. I'm not going to let it slow me down. I'm going for it. It's like kind of my surrender when I was in, like I mentioned, in the hospital bed, the gurney. And I said, okay, wait a second. I'm not giving up here. I got mad. All the energy that I had in me, I was like, I'm not going down like this.
Yeah.
I'm going to come out of this and I'm going to go forward. And that, I think, is what is right.
Yeah.
That is what I feel like the difference is between giving up and surrendering. Yeah. And you're right.
Surrendering is the ability to stay connected to your intention and being willing to do whatever it takes, no matter how hard it is, to stay connected to that energy of light and love. And honestly, that's a lot harder to do than giving up. Giving up is easy. Giving up and just throwing in the towel. And I think that a lot of times this perception of surrender, and I like to just close with this a little bit because it's really one of those big things that people come to me with, and it's a difficult concept to explain, and I like it that you're a good sounding board that actually sees exactly what I'm saying, right? One of the things that I like to talk about when I talk about surrender is that you have to really surrender to doing the right thing. I don't even know how to explain it, Amy. It's like you surrender to the light is what you surrender to. And so then you become a warrior to fight towards that light. I think a lot of the times the giving up perception comes from the thinking that the world is against you and coming to get you. And you're playing in a victim place, and because that's what's happening, when you surrender, you give up, you're gonna get crushed. Like you just, because you think the world is against you. It's not. It's just not against. It got nothing to do with you. The world is what it is, and it ain't a pretty place. It's a very difficult place to be. It's an interesting realm, this one. But if you're not thinking the world is out to get you, then when you think of surrender, you don't think of getting crushed. When you see that you're trying to get somewhere, and these are just obstacles that you have to overcome to get to that place of light and love and peace and joy and choosing happiness, then you surrender to doing the right thing, because you're not fighting anything or anybody, right? Like, people, when they say surrender, they think giving up. It's because they think they're fighting somebody. You're not fighting anything or anybody other than your own inner demons. So do not dare surrender to your own negativity and your own fears and your own way of holding yourself back. You have to surrender to the opposite. Don't give up on yourself, right? So then you surrender to continuously doing the right thing, no matter how hard it is. Exactly. And just know that you are worth it. That you in yourself are an amazing being, and that you are worth all the effort and energy to put into yourself. And to remember to give your permission for yourself to live, right? I think too, sometimes we get so caught up in having to please everybody else that you can't forget about yourself and nourishing and rejuvenating yourself. And however that looks for you, some people it's different. Yoga, meditation, I love pedicures, things like that. You have to take time for yourself and rejuvenate yourself, because you are important. Yeah. And that's the healing right there. Like, a lot of the times when people start working with me, they're like, well, I don't have the time, I don't have the money. Even if they can come up with the money, they can't come up with the time, right? And I'm like, no, you don't understand. Making the time for yourself is part of the healing process. That is what I'm helping you do. If you don't make that, you cannot buy this. You can pay me, but you cannot buy it. You still have to actually give yourself the gift of time, of taking care of yourself and really going within and doing that introspection. And a lot of the time as women, because we're so busy giving, that to us comes with guilt and stuff that's just not necessary. But in the minute that we begin to shift that perspective and put it in the right place, we actually have that much more to give. But now we're going into a whole other conversation. So thank you so much for sharing. I can't thank you enough. I'm just remembering it's Friday, so from last week, I'm going to do a drawing right now as of the live for last week. I know we usually give a little prize. I'm going to give the little prize this week. Or do you have something? I thought.
No, you're fine.
Okay, so I'm gonna give one of the little bracelets that I usually make. I love giving them because they come with a lot. Oh, you got one, didn't you?
I did, and I love it. I love it. Yeah. And it's simple as that. Like, just really quick, that's a reminder to me when I wear it of just how amazing you are and the positive messages that you share. So even having that on, sometimes when I'm having a big day, bad day, I'll look down at it and be like, oh yeah, she's awesome. And so it's awesome. So anybody that gets that, you'll love it.
Yeah. So I like to give them away. And usually when the speakers come, they're promoting their business. So I ask them to give something away, because usually they get business out of it. But on that note, what do? Share a little bit about what you do so that if people need your services, they can contact you.
I actually am the owner of a insurance company. I started my own insurance company with a couple partners back in March, right before COVID hit. So things that we do, P&C, so auto, home, all your recreational vehicles, small business.
In Utah only, I would imagine, or?
Yeah, sorry, say that again.
Is it Utah-based only insurance?
Yeah, Utah, Idaho, and Arizona.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's, we're starting up. It's good. It's called White Knight Insurance Solutions. And it's kind of what I spend my days doing, and it's kind of my passion. I've been doing insurance for the last 14 years, and I also specialize in Medicare. So I get to work with lots of fun people.
I'll figure you get to share that too, in case just so happens somebody's in need of your services as well. So I will do that.
Sarah, what I would like, if you don't mind, what I would like to do, so I'll let you draw, because we are in our family so passionate about never giving up. I'd like to give someone who draw a copy of my son's book.
Oh, that would be so wonderful. I would be willing to
send that to them, so they can kind of see his message, and maybe it will give them a little bit of extra boost to remember that if he can do it, they can do it.
Oh, that is so beautiful. That's such a beautiful, beautiful gift. Okay, so because of that, because I already made the offer, you get 2 gifts this week. So I'm going to do 2 drawings, and you'll have 2 winners, one for the bracelet and one for the book. And I will do those drawings next Friday. So what I'm doing now is, because I kept forgetting to do them on Monday, is I do the drawing for the following Friday. And just one last plug here. If you're watching, I am looking for someone for my team to help me with some enrollment calls. So there's a post out there on the group somewhere. I'm gathering videos and applications. I have someone helping me sort through them, because I'm getting a lot of calls for my 90-day awakening and empowerment program, which has been like so overwhelming. I'm so grateful and so blessed, and I'm seeing the students kind of just thrive in the program, and so I want to kind of just grow a little bit. And right now that's what's kind of holding me back. Like, I have the room to scale because I'm moving into the group classes, but I'm getting more calls than I can take because I'm busy teaching and I like teaching. So if this is something that you're interested, I think I have 2 or 3 applications so far, and I'll be looking at them all next week. So I just want to put it out there. I might have more than one person doing this, helping me with this. So I'm just going through the process right now with someone who's helping me for it. So if you're interested, then reach out to me, and I'll tag you on the post that has the instructions on how to apply. So thank you so much. You have a wonderful weekend, Amy. I really can't thank you enough for sharing.
Thank you for the opportunity, Sarah.
And everybody have a great weekend. Thank you so much for watching. Namaste.